अच्छा.
So in the last phase we got a very basic understanding of the differences of necrosis, necroptosis and apoptosis. Now we are coming to the model with which I had started initially, that Horvitz in 1999 was the first one to actually experimentally uh, identify that apoptosis was a part of a normal cellular physiology. And this was the pathway he discovered. This was the animal. I'm not getting into the details of the protein, because when we have done with the both the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway, I'll come back to this slide to give you a comparison about how the pathway of Horvitz, C. elegans, and how the pathway of mammals differed. But before that, we need to know these proteins. So since we have not yet studied them, so I'm not giving a comparison of these proteins now. So this was that animal, C. elegans, and this was the pathway that was discovered by Horvitz. I'd just like to say one thing here, that I started my PhD around 2003, and apoptosis experimental evidence started coming from 1999. So when I entered into this field, this subject was basically very, very new. Right now, I think so. If you look into the Google and give a search on apoptosis, you will be getting thousands and thousands papers on apoptosis. But the time of which I was talking, there were hardly few papers on apoptosis at that time. And I remember in my first MSc class, we had a professor named Professor Lahiri, and he had that at that time explained. I passed out in 2001, so Horvitz work is 1999. So it was roughly in a class around the year 2000 that for the first time sir had explained the work of Horvitz, and then had said a very few papers are available. I can give you, so he had this hard copy. At that time we did not have internet. So he had this hard copy of the Nature publication of Horvitz's work. And seeing my interest, he had said, you come and take a Xerox of this paper. So that paper and later on this subject actually interested me so much that my area of PhD was this. So as I'm saying that this is why I think so some PG students are logged in. So this is the reason why I say, in fact, I say my UG students, if possible, read papers and publications. That actually makes you interested in the work. So that was, I had digressed from the main topic. So coming back to the main topic. Now, as I said, that apoptosis is a normal phenomena, and it is required for a lot of normal maintenance process of the cell. Horvitz himself showed that in C. elegans, the apoptotic death of 130 cells was very important for the normal development of C. elegans. Similarly, in case of a developing mouse, as you can see, the flaps between the digits, we do not see it anymore here. So the flaps between the digits, these cells die off by the process of apoptosis. In the immune system, a lot of upregulated cells are killed by apoptosis. In maintenance of tissue homeostasis, a lot of cells are also killed by apoptosis. So now we are moving on to the first half of today's planned class. I had said caspases and the extrinsic pathway. Caspases are nothing but a group of enzymes that play a huge role in both the pathways of apoptosis. If we see this picture is from Levin's cell. There are a number of caspases found in the cell, and the caspases or this category of enzymes can be divided into three basic categories: the initiator caspase, the executioner caspase, and the inflammatory caspase. Now, coming to the nomenclature, why are they known as caspases? The nomenclature comes from the fact that they are a family of proteases. That means they can cleave protein that have a cysteine molecule at their active site and cleave their target proteins at specific aspartic acids. So basically these are enzymes having a cysteine amino acid in their active site, and when they cleave their substrates, they cleave their substrates at specific aspartic acid residues. So C for the caspases comes from the amino acid cysteine, and ASP comes, so this C, as you can see, the C comes from cysteine, ASP comes from aspartic acid, and ASES is a nomenclature for those enzymes that have the property of cleaving or cutting a substrate. If we, as I said, if we consider the number of caspases found in our cell, we can broadly divide them into three basic categories: the initiator caspases, the executioner caspases, and the inflammatory caspases. The inflammatory caspases are seen to be associated with the pyroptosis pathway. Razak had just questioned me earlier. We'll not be getting into the details of this. Now let us concentrate on the initiator caspase and the executioner caspase. The name itself suggests that the initiator caspase are restricted to the initiation phase of apoptosis, and the executioner caspases are restricted to the execution phase of apoptosis. If you look into the picture, the basic difference between the initiator and the executioner caspase is the presence of long prodomains. These are known as prodomain. Look at the picture. You can see the prodomains. So here you can see there are long prodomains present in the initiator caspase, which are missing in the executioner caspases. What is the importance of this prodomain? The importance of this prodomain is that they can associate themselves with certain proteins of the cell known as adapter protein. Now, what is the function of adapter? Let us imagine. Think of an electronic adapter. There is a plug. You have a laptop. Okay. Now, the laptop is far from your plug. You cannot connect into the main plug. So you bring in an adapter molecule, or what you say, you bring in an extension cord, and you plug in a laptop in the extension cord, and you plug the coil of the extension cord into the main plug. So adapter functions something like that. That is, these proteins react with the adapter, and the adapter reacts with some other proteins. That is how the signal comes. For example, there is A, B, C. A is a receptor, B is an adapter, C is a caspase. A receptor cannot directly react with C caspase, but it needs to send the signal. So how can it send the signal? So A recruits the adapter B, B then recruits the caspase C, so that the signal from A passes on to the signal C. So that is how an adapter works. So as you can see, all these initiator caspases have this longer prodomain that acts as adapters. These two caspases, caspase 8 and 9, belong to the extrinsic pathway. Caspase 9 and 2 belong to the intrinsic pathway. As I am restricting myself today to the extrinsic pathway, I'm not discussing caspase 9 and 2 today. However, the basic working mechanism of caspase 8 and 10 is very similar to the basic working mechanism of caspase 9 and 2. Only the adapters are different. Let's concentrate on the initiator caspase. Now, as you can see, in the longer prodomain, there is an orange blot, orange box. And you can see the name of the box here is, it is written as DED. So the full form is of DED is death effector domain. As I said, these prodomains can interact with adapters. So let's go to a picture like that. So this is a adapter protein. So when these prodomains can interact with the adapter, they interact via these DEDs. So as you can see, this is an adapter protein. This is a initiator caspase 8 with a longer prodomain. The adapter protein is recruiting the initiator caspase 8 via its own DED domain. So it is recruiting caspase 8. Once it has recruited both the caspases 8, then the caspase is activated. So if you look into this adapter protein, so this adapter protein has recognition sequences known as death effector domain. The caspase also has recognition sequences known as the death effector domain. Via the death effector domain, the adapter and the initiator caspases are interacting with each other. Concentrate on the adapter once more. The adapter also here has a yellow box. This box is known as DD, death domain. So, repeating once more, the adapter protein has two boxes. One is the yellow box, which is known as the death domain. The other is the DED or the death fold. So, the adapter has two recognition sequences. Via one recognition sequences, it can recognize the caspases. What does this sequence do? Just showing you the picture, what does that sequence do? So if we magnify this particular picture, I'll be coming to this picture in detail. Since I'm moving on to adapters, I'm showing you this picture here. So this is adapter protein. So you can see the yellow sequence, DD or the death domains. And you can see the orange sequences, DED or the death effector domain. So by the DD domains, the adapters are recruited to the receptors. Because as I said, for extrinsic pathway, signals has to come from outside the cell. And the signals has to be received by the receptors. Once the signals are received by the receptors then call these adapters via their death domains. Once the adapters get themselves attached to the death domains, they are activated. They now recruit the caspases to the adapters via the death effector domains. So this is the role of the adapters. So moving back to my first slide. So when we think of initiator caspases have signal recognition sequences for adapters within their pro-domain. If we look into the remaining of the structure, it has two cleavage sites. The large subunit is known as P20. The small subunit is known as P10. This is the picture of Levin cell and this is from Bruce Alberts. So this is the initiator caspase. The blue one is the pro-domain containing the DED and the green one is the light green is the large subunit of P20 and the dark green is the small subunit of P10. And you can see the cleavage sites is shown here also. The moment there is an apoptotic signal as shown, the adapter binds to the initiators via their death effector domain. Prior to the binding to the adapters, these enzymes are known as procaspases. See the name written here, inactive monomers. They are present as single units, they are enzymes, but they are inactive. The moment the adapter binds with them, the adapter brings about a conformational change in the monomers. The monomers are recruited as dimers. As you can see, the adapter recruits two monomers and a conformational change occurs in the adapters. So there is a cleaving occurring and the inactive monomers or the procaspase is then converted to the active caspase. So I am getting a functional active initiator caspase. The moment I get a functional active initiator caspase, it will now further cleave executioner procaspase to activate to executioner active caspase. So always remember that caspases are basically enzymes which can cleave. Such enzymes in normal condition are not kept activated in the cytoplasm. They are kept inactivated in the cytoplasm. When an external stimulus, apoptotic stimulus is received, the procaspases are activated to initiator caspases via the adapter proteins, or the executioner procaspases are activated to active executioner caspases via the initiator caspases. So this is another simplified picture. As you can see, this is procaspase 8. This is the pro-domain. The blue one is the pro-domain, death effector domain. We're having two we are having two death effector domain, the amino terminal end and the carboxy terminal end. This is the cleavage site. The cleavage site bears aspartic residues, a part of the nomenclature of the enzyme itself. What happens? The moment they get activated, see, so this is the larger subunit, I said P20, and this is the small subunit P10. The moment the adapter is activates it, or initiator caspase activates an executioner caspase, cleaving is occurring and the domains associate themselves in this manner. At times it is seen that the pro-domain is, after the association of the enzyme, at times it is seen that the pro-domain is also cleaved off, because there is an aspartic cleavage site between the pro-domain and P20 residue, and an aspartic cleavage site between the P20 and the P10 fragment. So this is how the caspases are activated. So we have just discussed how the caspases act and how the caspases can be activated. And we have learned that initially the receptors activate the adapters by the and the adapters in turn activate the initiator caspases. The initiator caspases in turn activate the executioner caspases. And as I said again and again, I'm reiterating that this is a unidirectional process and a very programmed process. At any point, nobody can go back. Now, let us see what happens to the receptors. I'll come to this portion later on. Let me talk about the receptors a bit. In our cell membrane, we have a lot of receptors. And there are a group of receptors that belong to the tumor necrosis factor receptor superfamily. The speciality of this family is that all these receptors have a extracellular region, a small transmembrane region, and a cytoplasmic region. If you look into the cytoplasmic part of these receptors, you can see a yellow box, very similar to the one you saw on the adapter molecules. These boxes or sequences are known as death domain. What happens? Whenever a apoptotic signal starts moving towards the receptors are usually spread across the cell membrane. The moment apoptotic signal starts moving towards the cell, the receptor starts moving towards each other. So you see, the receptor starts moving towards each other. And a set of 3 receptors makes one functional receptor. Again repeating, a set of 3 similar receptors makes one functional receptor. So they are known as trimeric receptor. 3 monomers constitutes one trimer. When the trimerization of the receptors have occurred, the death domains within these receptors gets activated. The moment the death domains are activated, as we saw in the previous picture, the moments see. So if you look into this picture, this is a cell. The above one is a cell. This is a death ligand. So this is a molecule. This is a stimulus. And the death receptors have trimerized. The trimeric death receptor can now recognize the death ligand. On recognizing the death ligand, the receptors, on the receptor cytoplasmic side, the death domains are being activated. The moment the death domains are being activated, it starts sending signals to the adaptor proteins to come towards them. So the adapter protein moves towards the receptors. The moment the adapter protein moves towards the receptors and gets activated by their own death domain, the adapters are now further activated. Now, their death effector domain is also activated. They now recruit dimers of procaspases there. So two dimers of procaspases are recruited to the adapters by their death effector domain. So once the dimers are recruited to the death effector domain, the caspase processing is done and we get an active caspase tetramer consisting of 2 small subunits and 2 large subunits. This is the initiator caspase 8, but in an active form. Mind it, when the caspase is active, it is written as procaspase. When it is inactive, it is written as procaspase. When it is active, it is written as caspase. So now this activated caspase further activates a downstream procaspase, which is one of the executioner caspases. So once the initiator caspase is activated, it now moves on to activate a downstream executioner procaspase. It processes the procaspase to produce an active executioner caspase. The moment we get an active executioner caspase, this will now move to cleave ICAD from CAD. I have already discussed this partner in my previous recording. So the moment any one of the executioner cleaves the inhibitory CAD from the active from CAD, caspase activated DNase or CAD is now activated. It will now move into the nucleus, translocate into the nucleus. At times it has been seen that ICAD-CAD complex is found in the cytoplasm. At times it has been seen that CAD-ICAD complex is found in the nucleoplasm. So if the CAD-ICAD complex is in the nucleoplasm, then caspase-3 moves through the nuclear pore into the nucleoplasm, cleaves the ICAD, activates the CAD, and CAD will now cause the cleavage of the linker regions of the DNA in the chromosome, as a result of which DNA will be fragmented. So this is basically the extrinsic pathway. This is a schematic representation for exam purpose, and thanks to Swastik. Swastik had done this for me, and so that later on all other juniors of him will be benefited. So for exam purpose, he did it in a very simpler manner. So these are death ligand, the death receptors are becoming trimeric. So these have names. These regions, whenever these adapter proteins, these have names. The names of these adapter proteins in this case is, you are seeing it's written FADD, fast associated death domain. Or you can see another name written here, TRAD, tumor necrosis factor receptor associated death domain. How is the name varying? The name depends on the receptor for which it is the adapter. For example, if the receptor is the tumor necrosis factor receptor, then the adapter protein is TRAD. If the receptor is the FAST receptor, then the name of the adapter protein is FAD. So depending on the name of the receptor, the name of the adapter protein changes. So here the trimerization of the adapter protein, trimerization of receptor, adapter protein activated. To this adapter protein, as you can see, the procaspase is recruited. This part is known as death-inducing signaling complex. Within this death-inducing signaling complex, the procaspase 8 is activated to initiator caspase 8. Once we get an active initiator caspase 8, it then proceeds to activate the executioner caspases and then apoptosis. So this is in brief the execution pathway this is in brief the extrinsic pathway, but I want to go to a bit details about certain things, so I'm moving upward again. Coming to caspases, as I had said to Razak had asked me regarding caspase 1 and caspase 5. I have given this picture, but this picture is not a part of your syllabus. Previously, I had said this caspase 1 and caspase 5 are a part of the inflammation process, and they help in the formation of a structure known as inflammasome, which is associated with interleukin 1 and is a part of the innate immunity. So even though this picture is given, there's no point in going into this picture, okay? Now, what are the functions of caspases in general? The first is, as you can see, inhibitor of DNase. It cleaves ICAD. Second, nuclear lamines. The nuclear lamines hold the nucleus in a beautiful rounded figure, 3D rounded conformation. So nuclear lamines are cleaved. As you can see, aspases. So these are enzymes which can cleave behind any aspartic acid residue. And aspartic acid is a very common residue found in a lot of proteins. So cleaving of nuclear lamines. Cytoskeletal proteins are cleaved. So the cytoskeleton is totally disarrayed. And membrane weaving starts. So cellular fragmentation. It cleaves Golgi matrix protein, fragmentation of the Golgi. And it cleaves scramblase, or rather by cleaving scramblase, it activates scramblase. Scramblase helps in the translocation of phosphatidylserine from the inner leaflet to the outer leaflet. So as you can see, so these are the caspase targets, and once the caspases are activated, let me be clear that initiator caspase has a very fixed target. The initiator caspase has a target to activate the executioner caspases. It is actually the executioner caspases who have this many targets. Initiator caspase target is very fixed. It is always activation of executioner caspase. It is the executioner caspases that have such repertoire of functions or such variety of functions, ultimately bringing about a programmed cellular fragmentation to be digested by the phagocytic cells. This is a picture of the Bruce Alberts. Now, as I had said, while explaining the extrinsic pathway, I said that there are receptors. And the name of the adapter depends on the name of the receptors. There are two broad categories of receptors. Since you have not read the immune system yet, so you might not have heard the details of these receptors. One receptor belongs to all the receptors belongs to the tumor necrosis family. Of this family, this particular receptor you have seen here is written as fast death receptor. Fast death receptor is found on all cells of the body. So it is a fact that evolutionary, all the cells of the body have been given the property to suicide or to die from an external stimuli. So this receptor, I'm again saying, is a receptor that is found in all cells of the body, and all cells can go for suicide or can be programmed to die on expression of an external stimuli. And the ligand of this receptor, this ligand is not found in all cells. This is a very particular cell where we get this kind of ligand. This cell is nothing but T cytotoxic lymphocytes. You have heard of lymphocytes in blood. There are a variety of lymphocytes. The basic division is B and T lymphocytes. Among the T lymphocytes, there are two further categories: T helper lymphocyte, T cytotoxic lymphocyte. Cytotoxic lymphocytes are otherwise known as killer lymphocytes. As you can see by the name, cytotoxic. So they are toxic to the cytoplasm of a cell. So the cytotoxic lymphocytes actually exhibit the ligand for these receptors. So these lymphocytes are just like police patrolling. See, if somebody is suffering from corona, go and arrest him. Something like that. So how does one know, how does a police officer or how does a doctor know that he or she is suffering from corona? Because there are certain symptoms. So if we see a symptom in a person, we assume that that person is suffering from corona. Even though it can be mild flu, but let us assume that that person is suffering from corona. So lymphocytes also see symptoms in cells. A healthy cell will not show symptoms which is shown by a cell about to die or on the verge of apoptosis. Whenever there is a cellular signaling going on and the cell is about to die by apoptosis, the receptors come together, aggregate together in trimers. And this is one symptom that is recognized by the killer lymphocyte, or vice versa. The killer lymphocyte moves forward and then they see, and it is also sometimes seen that the lymphocytes trimerize. So once the killer lymphocytes are activated and they, once the death receptors are activated and trimerized, they attract these killer lymphocytes. And the killer lymphocytes then bind with them. And thereafter, I have already said the signaling pathway, the adapters are activated. The adapters are attracted to the receptors via their death domain. Once the adapters are activated, they activate their death effector domain. By their death effector domain, they activate the caspases, procaspases. This is the death-inducing signaling complex. Within the signaling complex, the caspase 8 is activated. And once the caspase 8 is activated, it moves on to activate the executioner caspases and apoptosis starts. So basically, this is the extrinsic pathway of apoptosis.